If our podcast is helping you with your mental health, Zak and I would be so grateful if you could hit the follow or subscribe button wherever you get your podcasts. It's a simple action, but it really helps a lot. Thank you. On the first day I walked into Zak's therapy room in my hometown of Dublin, Ireland, I was one seriously lost dude. I had no direction and no real knowledge of what I needed from life. Zak told me that he'd help me to find my authentic self, whatever that meant. 3 years later, I had made some serious changes, and Zak even helped me to get sober.
When I first met Stephen, he was a very lost soul, and I wasn't even sure to what degree the platform of therapy could help him. What followed was a journey to which I had the privilege to be part of, as I watched this young man dig deep and disrupt his old behaviours and beliefs. He eventually walked out of my room a changed man, and I believe he did find a more authentic self.
So despite all of my healing and growing, it's not over, because I'm back for more. This is one man
and his therapist.
Tell me, where are you? What time of day is it? What's your weather like outside? Bring me in on your world.
It's a nice morning here in Transylvania. Well, it's just past morning now here. It's just after 12. I decided to sleep a little extra today. I've been doing this thing, getting up most days at 6, which is really great, and I'm very productive. But Rebecca and I have become addicted to, funnily enough, this show called Couples Therapy.
Okay.
And I didn't actually know it existed until very recently. But it's a real therapist with real couples, and we're watching it together, and we have one rule that we're not allowed to go, you do that, you do that.
What an excellent rule. What an excellent rule.
But it's amazing. It's the impact it's having on us.
Yeah.
Is very strong and very positive. We didn't start watching it for that reason. It was just like, let's watch this out of interest. We're both obviously in therapy ourselves individually, and we're both people who really work on ourselves. So, there always has been a good level of dialogue and communication most of the time, not all the time, but a lot of the time we do communicate well. But what this is doing is, it's making us realize that we're pretty literate when it comes to understanding each other. And yes, there is a bit of comparison going on, shit, we're not too bad. Not in a smug way, but in a way where it's like, actually, let's be grateful for what we have. And yeah, it's just really interesting. But anyway, been staying up a bit too late, watching a couple of episodes of that every night. So this morning I said, I'm not getting up early. I have the gift of being my own boss. And so I stayed in bed till 9:30 and then got up and went for a run with the dog, had a cold shower, and then came here to the studio. So,
well, fantastic. I'm curious to know what this program, watching other couples and watching other couples on a journey, what type of gifts it has thrown you guys as viewers, as a couple sitting at home watching. Can you give me a sample of the type of bonuses or insights that have come your way?
Yeah. It's kind of heightened our awareness of how we are interacting, to the point where it's like, it's only been like a week or something we've been watching it, but it's just given us that kind of level of like, and like, for example, in the park yesterday, I think it was yesterday morning, we went for a walk with the dog and in the woods, and Rebecca doesn't normally come with me in the morning for a walk, but she came and we were walking, and we had some sort of, there was this dog that always chases my dog, and I got really annoyed one day with the owner of the dog, because I was like, the dog will never come to them, and they leave the dog free, and then it makes my dog really anxious, and I've got my dog on the lead. I'm being responsible because my dog chases people sometimes, so I can't have him free. And, these people, they're not able to control their dog, and yet they're letting the dog free. Anyway, that person was there the other day, and Rebecca saw the interaction between me and the woman, which was quite cold. And she was like, I didn't like that interaction. What happened? What's the history there? And I was like, well, one day I told that woman that if she can't control her dog, to keep her dog on the lead. And then Rebecca started like going on a kind of a thing, a bit of a rant basically at me, saying, well, you can be quite reactive like that, Stephen. You might need to watch, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, Rebecca, I need you in this moment to trust that in that moment I acted as I saw fit. And, that's a good example of, instead of me going, kind of getting really defensive and really like, blah, 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 I just said, this is what I need from you in this moment. And I think from that, it was kind of from that television show that I'm kind of able to, there's just a little bit of a heightened ability to be more clever with, not clever, but, intelligent with my wording and with my understanding of the deeper meaning of everything around us that's happening between us.
And it sounds like also that you're showing a little bit more courage.
Yeah.
And I say it in the context of the courage to say what you authentically feel in that moment with your partner.
Yeah.
Sometimes we do a lot of filtering, filter and soften, and often state partially what we feel in order to sometimes to avoid conflict, keep people happy, say what you feel, but still be the good guy. There's lots of reasons why in a given interaction we can edit or alter what we're authentically, truly trying to say. So it sounds strong and more courageous of you, the way you described it. You were straight with her, just said it exactly as you needed to. So yeah, that sounds wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah, and just to kind of go on from that, the last time we spoke, we mentioned this thing that her therapist had alluded to, that maybe there was a kind of a little bit of a controlling element within me, and maybe a little bit of manipulation going on, and you kind of gave me homework to sit with Rebecca and be very curious in a very measured way, and to ask her about that.
Yeah.
And so I did so. But what has happened since our last conversation and the work that Rebecca's been doing is that, we've kind of been having lots of dates.
Right.
And it's kind of, it's a combination of, just the fact that my work has eased up. We've kind of finished with working on the apartment, so there's a bit more free time, and I'm less. I'm sticking to my guns with my words of the year, which is balance, softening, and consistency, and balance being one that's coming into play in this regard. And I'm really trying to recognize that however much work is important, I've been putting so much so much weight on it, way more than I should be. And so, yeah, we went to a lovely kind of spa place last week, and we were in the pool. I probably chose a very opportune moment to ask her about that, because I had told her already, I need to talk to you about that. And she said, oh, I appreciate that you're going to. That's cool. We'll do it soon. And then I was in the pool with her when I said, let's talk about that. But we were both very soft and very kind of in a very good place and having a very nice day.
Yeah.
Looking through this big window onto the Transylvanian countryside and in this, very luxurious setting. And so Rebecca was like, to be honest with you, I can't really think of things right now. So we did kind of attempt to have that conversation. What I'm saying to you is I did try and do my homework, but I probably didn't do it in the right place.
Well, on one hand, it sounds like you potentially, we could say you did it in the perfect place. I mean, but let's just pause and remind ourselves what you just described there. It sounds blissful. I think it's interesting that as idealistic as the environment was for the two of you to pose such a contemplative and open question, so you guys could heal and grow in that moment. All those circumstances cannot force an awareness or an answer from a person. The two of you could be on a Tuesday at home domestically, washing dishes and just going about your normal humdrum, that humdrum part of your life. And sometimes that's the moment for the authentic, deep interaction between two people. So environmentally, it helps sometimes, beautiful skies and views and pools. But we can see from your example, it doesn't force an awareness, or it doesn't force the answer, which is a shame. It would have really wrapped up that story nicely if Rebecca had have dropped amazing words of wisdom while you
Yeah,
both, floated on the water edge in that
yeah.
moment. But yeah,
But I think to wrap up the story nicely is to say one thing, that having an awareness of that behavior has led to me, like there must be some truth in it, and so I am being very measured with most of the time. I'm not claiming to be an angel, but most of the time I'm trying to really see myself from outside myself in that regard. And on that particular day, it was a day when Rebecca was incredibly down. Like at the start of the day, she was really, really, like I haven't seen her so down in a very long time. And I, at 2 o'clock that day, I had finished my work for the day, and I said, "Now I'm your husband. What are we going to do?" And she said, "We could go to that place." And so for the rest of the day, she kind of talked a lot, and I just did a lot of listening. And because there's this 10-year age gap, I can often find myself thinking that I need to assume the role of advice giver or inspirer or whatever.
Hmm.
And on that day, I chose just to listen and be empathetic and agree with her. And I've never had such a result with Rebecca as I had that day, in terms of just her really being so happy and so grateful for our companionship, which is one of the elements of our marriage that we offer each other. She was just so thankful at the end of the day, and for the days that followed, that I was able to just be her friend and listen to her without judging, without saying, you need to do this, or you need to change that, or you need to work on this. I didn't do any of that. And so I think that, just an awareness of my own behavior, that whatever we want to call it, controlling, whatever, having that awareness has led to, again, a softening.
Yeah. I want to just make an observation about that what sounds like very, very powerful day
Mm-hmm.
when you two were very, very close in that moment. And the question is, how do you listen? How do you listen? Or how did
Mm-hmm.
you listen that day? Well, it sounds like you listened with your heart. That's the first thing. You were listening with your heart, not your head. And it
Yeah.
also sounds like you were listening with generosity. And by that, I mean, you described earlier how sometimes you're listening with identity. I'm listening now, and how can I be the wise one? And, with wisdom does have a lot of compassion in it. So it's not as if playing wise is without compassion. But am I listening now as the wise one, the advisor, the helper, the soother? And we can get caught up in, as the listener, and as a therapist, you can imagine how well I can relate to this, listening to people
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the time. That how we listen, how you listen to your partner, it just needs to be really simple. You make sure you do it with your heart, and you do it generously. And the generosity comes in the form of doing what you did, which was keeping you out of it, keeping your identity out of it. your labels, your awareness of, being the, as you say, the wise counsel, the more informed. No, you just listened with your heart, and that was it. You kept it really simple, and the more simple you are in that role, I think the better for everybody, and hopefully that'll be reciprocated. You can get that back as well, because you talked about the age gap and that sort of natural stance of you having lived more life and therefore maybe being the wiser one. Um, Let me ask you, do you find yourself listening to Rebecca's wisdom at times? Do you listen to her insights?
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Yeah. How is she wiser than you?
Oh, she's a lot more patient.
Mm.
A lot more measured in how she responds to a situation. She's kind of kinder in a way, in a lot of ways. I mean, I do think of myself as a kind person, but I can be kind of brutal sometimes with my words when I'm with someone very close to me, not like towards them, but maybe about something or someone or a situation. She reminds me of humility, of lots of different things like that. When I'm very comfortable with someone, I can have a tendency to really blow my own trumpet and, really, because I mean, rightly so. I think I'm proud of a lot of things that I do in my life, and I like to talk about them. But I can definitely take a bit of humble pie now and again. And Rebecca brings me back down to earth in a way that I need to be brought to earth. So yeah, I mean, I could keep going for ages. There's loads of things, but yeah, I find she complements me hugely in that way. Like we help each other in those, we balance each other out in so many ways like that.
Yeah. But you're saying you do kindness differently, a little bit differently.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know. I wouldn't know how to put that into words, but
well,
I need to think about it. But
yeah,
but there's something just softer about her, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, do you want to bring anything from previous session to the space today to talk about, or would you like to just
there was
go for it?
A couple of things that I wanted to ask you, because we've been doing a number of sessions now back since
1812, I think.
What?
1812.
What's that mean?
As in, back, you're talking about way back from. I'm suggesting it. Sometimes it feels like we've been doing this a very long
since
time.
1812.
Yeah. Sorry,
Yeah.
It's too early in the morning for a well-timed joke. Forgive me that. But yeah, it's like we've been talking for a long time, and I mean it feels fresh, but
you know what I mean. We had this long break, and now we're back, and I guess it's coming from a slightly self-conscious place. But I suppose I'd like to hear like kind of an evaluation of where you think I am and where you think I could be going, or and then part of me is like, is this a stupid question? And another part of me is also, I kind of should know this, and I kind of do in a way, and maybe I'm just looking for validation. I don't know.
Yes to all that. Well done. I think your opener, you'd like an evaluation, where I'm coming from, where I'm going to. Yeah, you're right. That's to be answered, or at least discussed between us. We should evaluate together, and we can reflect together, and we can project together. I certainly would hate to sit here and go, okay, get ready, get your notepad out. So here's my evaluation of you, because that's an awful position for me to have to give that, and for you to have to hear it, because it's not real. It's not. That's us feeding into our identities. We're feeding into you wanting to hear the wise counsel of the therapist, and hoping to hear back, nice, meaningful validations, so that you can hear that you matter, and that, you're getting the homework right. And yes, you're growing, and confirmation of all of that. And that's not the working relationship we have. That's not where we're at. So we will discourage that. But we will encourage absolutely to share a platform evaluating the working relationship between us, evaluating the journey as much as you need. So we're not going to, we won't avoid that opportunity of evaluation, but I think just the context and how we set about it, we should fine tune based on what I said. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think I'm understanding you. It's still a little bit abstract what you said, but
okay, yeah. Well, I suppose, to be blunt, I don't want to stand in judgment of you in the conversation. As kind as the judgment might be, and as positive and affirming as I'd always try and make my words, the idea of evaluating and giving you an evaluation of you, as you pointed out, is not necessarily empowering or helpful.
yeah, that bit I get, but the bit where you're saying that we set up a play to evaluate together, what I guess you mean that it's just this is what we'll always be doing and ongoing throughout our therapy. That's the bit I don't get.
All right, I think the shared evaluation, us making our together sharing our commentary about your journey. You're right. We need to clarify that on two platforms. One, we do that ongoingly, naturally, as we weave through the tapestry of our conversations. I think that happens as we go. But if you want to sort of take a pause and for us to have a conversation of evaluation of your journey, I think we can do that too. Yeah. But I'd like to ask if you want to have that very pointed conversation of evaluation. What's the purpose? What will it do for you?
I suppose on a very practical level, it would just kind of solidify things in my head, I guess. I'm very goal oriented. I work very well, as has been proven throughout the last couple of months since we started working together. Whenever you've set me tasks, it works very well for me. I like to be. I don't know what it is in me, but I like to have a challenge. I love to have a challenge, in fact. So I suppose that's really it would be very useful for me if we were kind of practical about it in that regard. Right. That it was like, okay, this is where you're at, and obviously you can't really say this is where, but these are good things to aim towards, or something like that,
Yeah.
But then,
so you need to have a challenge. Okay.
Well, I wouldn't mind one.
Yeah.
But maybe I'm. But at the other end of things, I'm very happy with the way things are, and I'm getting so much just sitting and talking and everything else. I don't need to change anything. I'm just throwing things out there.
Yeah, I hear you. You're saying a challenge would be helpful. A challenge is part of your drive. You do well being provoked or being challenged with task. Yeah, hear you on that. You said you need to be solidified. So I need to solidify things. Talk more about needing to be solidified.
Well, I suppose, I guess in my life, there's so much that is in some way not solid. our life. We live here in Romania right now, but soon we're going to move and probably live in Paris for a while, and that's the blessing of my work, that I'm able to be wherever I want to be and continue to work. And Rebecca and I want to explore that kind of life for a while, of being kind of moving, and but I think and then also going, one of the things that's been really on my mind lately is, because I was home in Ireland recently, is my family, my original family, my parents, and for me there's a lot of sadness there. It was lovely to see them, and the three of us, because they're split up, there's no family home, and we went and spent a few days at a hotel, and it was a lovely time, actually.
Yeah.
But I felt very sad for them both, because they're both kind of vulnerable now in some ways, and so they're again lacking solidity, because I don't know, I have that kind of a mushy feeling about that whole thing. So I suppose really for me the only solids, the only givens and big truths of my life are Rebecca, who I always say is my home, my little dog Timmy, and the home that we've made here. But and my work. But other than that, it's all kind of very movable,
Hmm.
and I don't know. For me, inside of me, I I like myself. I'm happy with the way I'm moving as a human being, but I also know that I'm still lacking kind of deep rooted kind of I I'm not as strong as I want to be, basically, in myself, in the things that I promise to myself, in my self assurance. These things need working on, and I'm recognizing that more and more. And I feel like if I really get to that point where I have that real deep inner strength, then everything else will follow. Am I making any sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm listening carefully.
Um, yeah, because I think with all of this, there's a kind of an underlying fear. There's something that I'm not really seeing it as much as I should. It's just kind of there hovering, and now that I'm talking, I'm feeling it.
And is it hovering outside of you or within you? Where would you locate it, this fear?
I think both, but more within. I think deep within, because I'm not always conscious of it.
Where in your body is it? Pick a location.
My stomach, I think.
If you were to imagine its shape and color, what's it look like?
Like maybe a dark blue, or yeah,
And its shape?
a swirly kind of swirly. I've got my eyes closed, kind of swirly image going on,
And its texture?
kind of gas-like.
Gas-like. Just have a quiet moment. Just say hi to it. Just be with it for a moment. Just allow it to be. And if it's helpful to keep it there, just step away from it. If it would be more helpful to dilute it or blow it away like a cloud, or to move it, just creatively with your mind, shift or change it if you need. So this fear is helpful. Okay. All these things are helpful. It's another jigsaw piece. It's another part of your tapestry. Um, did you keep it in its location, or did you move it off as a matter of interest?
I took it in my hands and I looked at it,
Mm.
and then I let it float into the sky.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. Can I bring you back to meeting with your mum and dad in the hotel in Dublin? Or
Yeah,
I don't know if it was Dublin.
Wicklow. Yeah.
Wicklow. Okay. Um, I know your sense of belonging is with your wife and Timmy, and so it's not so much your location, but it's where the love is where the love is at its strongest. I suppose is the sense of belonging, um, and your day to day love is your marriage.
Mhm.
Um, how was it connecting back in like a triad, you, mum, and dad? You know, in hopefully a very nice Wicklow setting. How was the love piece between the three of you? How did that work?
Um. Well, like I mean, with each of my parents, I have I have my ways of being. Um. But it's like it's not necessarily when the three of us are together, because it's it's difficult when sometimes there's very nice conversations between the three of us, but my dad can be quite angsty and can get very impatient with my mum.
Hmm.
Um, and then I have to kind of try and be the peacemaker. Um,
You have to be, yeah.
well, I have to be, but I do try. I get defensive of my mum, because I don't know, like I love my dad, as you know, but my mum has taken so much shit over the years, and still, like, despite him leaving her and everything else, like, yeah, she's still so kind to him and still shows up for him, even though they're not together and he left her and everything. Um, and then he can just be so impatient. Now I know his brain has been very affected by alcohol misuse over the years, and so I have to keep a kindness towards him as well, because I don't think that he's acting in a malicious or hateful way. It's just he doesn't know how to manage his reactivity. So anyway, that's how it is. The three of us. When I'm with my mother, it's different. On my own, I can really find it in my heart to be very kind to her. She wrecks my head. She drives me crazy, but I love her very much. Um, One of the things that I've really learned over the last few years is to just recognize that I'm never going to change either of them, um, despite whatever I may have wished in the past.
Yeah.
There's no changing them unless they wish for change themselves. And so sitting in acceptance of who they are is how I get through my time with them.
Yeah.
And I accept them, are their good parts, and I see their good parts, and I try and breathe through and, you know, just try and remain calm in the other parts. But I do lose my patience, of course, as well.
Yeah. So you try and allow them to be, for they already are.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's great. So you give them the space to be themselves. They're broken selves, like we all are. And you try and embrace that, allow it to be, go with the flow of that. So that's wonderful. So you gave them a wonderful gift.
Yeah.
I guess the Wicklow weekend came about through you organising it.
No, my dad, actually. I mean,
Oh right, okay.
I went back to Ireland specifically for my dad because he's really struggling with going on binges of alcohol,
Hmm.
and my mum thinks I'm the second coming of Jesus Christ, and so that I would come back and save him somehow, even though I haven't saved him before. I've really tried. He came here for 7 weeks. He came here for once, and he did get sober. I helped him get sober. I brought him to a psychiatrist. He did a big detox. He was sober for a month, and he was so happy. And then within a few days of going back to Ireland, he was back drinking. So I can't do any more, Zach. And
No.
um,
You've already done so much. I mean, you help facilitate these pockets of sobriety and
Yeah, but
peace.
it's just, yeah, but it's just, it breaks my heart, because it's just, it should, I don't know. I don't know what like. It's sad for me because I'm in this other country, and I don't want to live in Ireland again. I'm now. I like. There's no part of me that, for the moment, wants to be there. But it's so hard to have these two people who I really do love, who are now living alone, and there's just a great sadness there for me that I. But there's a need, there's a want to fix it for them, and I can't, and I know I can't. And there's also a belief that from my mother in particular, that if my presence was there, that her life would be in some way heightened. And I'm like, she keeps talking about everyone else has family around them and I don't. And it's like, after a few minutes of being together, we're just like any other family, and we have an argument and blah 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 and whatever else. And it's like, I'm just like, Mum, but she is lonely. She's lonely. But like, even if I was there, I can't fix that loneliness,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like two of them. One is a very bad alcoholic who is a danger really to himself at this stage, and the other is a woman who is very lonely. It's very heavy for me to carry that, and like a lot of the time I just have to almost pretend like it isn't a thing, and I just call them and do the pleasantries when my dad answers the call, and and when my mum will answer all the time, of course, and then I have to just get on with my own life. But it's like, it's a lot, and I carry this, and it's worth us talking about. I don't know how we got here today, but it's worth us talking about because it's really the thing that steals my peace, in my life.
Yeah.
It's not external things really anymore. It's not, the war in Ukraine or whatever else is happening in the world. I've worked through a lot of that stuff, which I was very affected by for a long time. But it's like, whenever I get to a place of real peace in my life these days, my brain goes, but what about Mum? What about Dad? It's like this automatic thing that I can't be fully at peace. There's always going to be something that tries to take it from me, and it's pretty much always them, and always has been really at the root of things.
Yeah. And, it was always just the three of you. There wasn't 4 or 5 other siblings to buffer and bounce some of this crap off, over the years, growing up in a home where everybody is functioning within their dysfunction. Sometimes there can be a buffer in siblings or other people being around. You've carried it all by yourself.
Yeah.
And, the enmeshment of the relationships where at times the parent is behaving like the child and the child is behaving like the parent, something you're very familiar with. That enmeshment that you've had to carry has made the simple act of loving people has made it very complicated for you. So complicated. So, layered with the guilt and the anger, you know. And what you described, how you described you coping with it, I'll phone them, but I have to live my life. I listen. I know I can't change them. Everything you just described in the last 10 minutes of talk, is right. You're doing it really as best anyone can. I have no extra droplets of wisdom to add here about how you can be better as a son or as a member of this family, because the three of you are still a family.
Yeah. But,
In some construct, you are a family still, you were going to say?
well, I think you can help me in one way. If you don't, if you feel that I'm doing things right, that's good to hear. It's good to have
I
that
do.
validation, I guess. But
Yeah.
but what I suppose I need to hear in a way, is that I shouldn't feel guilt, because I feel huge guilt for not being in Ireland, for not being around them. And I'm not saying absolve me of the guilt, Father, but I'm saying, you know, I suppose I want to know if you think that this is a very direct question, nothing abstract or philosophical or anything about it. Do you think that my mother's life would be better if I was in Ireland, or my father's life would be better if I was in Ireland? And maybe it's not a question anyone can answer, but it's worth asking.
Um, all I know is that you have lived in Ireland. You have spent extensive amounts of time around your parents over the years. I mean, the first 20 years of your life was nearly exclusively with them. And since then, you have had, I've known you to have very interactive and active relationship with your mum. You have
Yeah, I helped her
had
through her whole divorce.
and everything. I mean, you were there by her side a lot of the time.
Yeah, to the point where you had to
still,
tell me to stop answering the phone to her for a day or two. Yeah.
well, yeah, just take 48 hours, breathe, take
Yeah.
a breath. And while doing that, you were still, trying to be there for dad, in whatever way you could. Just, so you have, we have real data of what it's like when you are integrated into their day-to-day life and their pain and their love, when you're there and helping. And so therefore, given that we know what it's like historically, we can predict that if you were in Ireland 5 kilometers from either of them, being more available to them in their world right now, it would probably be similar to how it was before. Similar, not the same, but similar. And you know what that is. And it's a mixture of both value. It also brings sacrifice, and exhaustion, frustration, gratification. It's such a mixed bag, Stephen.
Yeah.
And you're an adult man with significant responsibilities within your relationship, to be a worthwhile life partner to Rebecca, and to fuel and carry each other on this journey. She's made a huge commitment to be with you for the rest of her life, and you've made a huge commitment to be with her, and your primary responsibilities to each other. And because you take your relationship very seriously, as you should, and in the natural cycle, we grow up, we grow out, we find our partners, and from a distance, we try and support our family of origin as best we can in the circumstances that we have before us. And it's therefore always going to bring a guilt for you. You're going to be living with a rumble of guilt around your parents forever. It's going to be with you right till their end, maybe beyond. So if we're going to do anything with your guilt, we should learn how to just journey with it easier. That's what I think our topic should be, in allocating some special time to it, maybe next day when we talk, how to journey easier with the guilt. So guilt, maybe, I think, would be the poignant and important topic for discussion next day. I feel. What about you?
Sounds great, yeah, because I think it bleeds into a lot of different parts of my psyche for sure.
Yeah, and if you want a bit of homework, we know that having an overdeveloped sense of responsibility is most evidenced by the guilt. So do a little reading around the guilt, read some papers, look at a couple of tutorials.
Okay.
You might even find something inspiring in your TV relationship program around the guilt piece. Be aware, just carry an awaken, just be awake to the idea of the guilt and shame type emotion in what you observe this week, what you look at, what you talk about. Let that just be your awareness. And whether you do homework on it or not, we'll bring it to the top of session next day, and we will, with kindness, we will explore how to journey better with this guilt so that it just doesn't weigh you down so much. And I look forward to that.
Disclaimer: the opinions expressed by our presenters are entirely their own. We believe in fostering an environment that values intellectual diversity, enabling our presenters to share their unique insights and viewpoints. It is crucial for our audience to recognise that the opinions articulated during the course of this programme are those of the individual presenters and do not reflect or represent any other individuals, agencies or organisations. If you wish to contact Zak Powers, please email him at bergenpsychological.com. If you wish to contact Stephen, please go to stephendaltonvo.com.